And is there anything that should be discussed in private? I don't think so. Even the, well, when we get onto the options at the end, they're all public companies that are listing their prices, aren't they, Rich? There's nothing commercially sensitive there, really.
No.
Options. Okay, so next item, the minutes of the previous meeting, which was circulated. So does anybody who was there want to propose them as a correct record?
Yeah, I'll propose myself.
I'll second.
We're all happy with that? Are you happy, Ben, as well? You were there? Yeah. The only thing that was on those minutes, Rich, that doesn't really, I know we don't really do matters arising, but I'm not sure the issue about the bus company. I mean, and the 40p. Basically, we missed the anniversary for the transports. I mean, I don't think that's on the agenda, is it? But is that just a holding item till they get back to normal?
Yeah, I think we basically said we'll let it lie until we're through COVID, and then it'll turn up back on the agenda at that point, basically.
Yeah, we just need to remind ourselves not to let it drop. That's all.
Yeah. No, I'll remember it. I'll remember it.
Okay. Okay. The next item's about, and this relates to this. We were talking about how the parish can better publicise the things that it supports, but also how it can help commemorate events and anniversaries. And I know Rich has been doing a little bit of work on this because I've seen him asking questions on Facebook and other places. So, Rich, do you want to just give us a quick update on where you are with that?
Yeah, there was quite a lot of interest, actually, and some quite surprising things came out of just asking people on Facebook about what they thought was important and what is worth commemorating. There are a few things we missed, which I think is part of the reason why I put this forward in the first place. Like for example, as well as the 75th anniversary of the last flood, we also missed the 100th anniversary of the hospital. We also missed the 150th anniversary of what's it called? What's our film connection?
Bamford.
Bamford.
Yeah, Bamford's 150th, 1870 to 2020. So those were things we missed. In terms of things that are coming up, so this is currently the centenary of the Honley Show, 1921 to 2021. So I think that's quite a major thing that probably needs a mention. The other thing, not this year, but next year, I think is an important one, really. Not just for us, but from one of our neighbouring councils, is the bus crash, which I think it's their 75th anniversary. What's the name? Bolsterstones. Yeah. So as you're probably aware, there was a crash in the 1940s. I think it is. Is that right? Where would it be? Is it 1946? That'd be 75. And it's their 75th anniversary. It's quite a big deal in Bolsterstones. You may have seen in the Civic Hall, there's a plaque that they gave to the people of Home Firth on the 50th anniversary to say thank you to the people of Home Firth for the efforts of the people to try and save, the choir who were killed. There were a lot of people killed, but I don't know if you've seen the photographs. There's dozens of people basically trying to get these singers out of the crash. So I think they might well see it as a big thing, the 75th. Obviously, there will still be a few people alive who remember that, and there will still be family members of those people as well. So personally, I think it would be nice if we did something, reaching out to Bolsterstones on one side, but other people felt, other people on Facebook were saying they felt it would be good if we some sort of memorial at the site of the crash, which is basically at the bottom of Dunford Road. So that was something that came up for next year. Loads of stuff came up, actually. People were talking about anniversaries of parks, Victoria Parks. What would that be? So that's 1897. So that'll be the 125th in a couple of years. So there's all sorts of stuff coming up. I was only really looking at kind of major anniversaries like 50th, 100th, 75th and stuff like that. But there's so much stuff you know, that people are interested in. There was all sorts of stuff were being mentioned. So I don't know whether you know, in terms of, say, the Honley show, which, as I say, is the 100th. I mean, obviously we'll be, well, you know, I can obviously put things on the website and so on. I think it's not till October, but whether we did anything else for it, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Jason, do you want to come in?
Yeah, two things. Regarding the Hospical's 100th, we did try and do something, but Councillor Roberts, for some reason, never got back in touch with us, so we couldn't do anything about it to help and celebrate the 100th year with that. Regarding the Honley show, I think we do normally give them a grant towards the show anyway, so maybe we need to work with them and Boulderstone's choirs to see if they want to do anything where we can work with them.
Yeah, Rachel, do you want to come in as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, obviously there's we could go to town with celebrating anniversaries, and it's whether we want to sort of tailor them at specific events that we have in mind. I mean, Bolsterstone, it makes sense to sort of make, I mean, it's not till October 2022, from what I see on the agenda, so it's a way off.
Yeah, it's not till next year.
I mean, it'd be nice to have some sort of musical tribute to them, really. I mean, to be honest, lots of people gathering at the bottom of Dumford Road doesn't seem like a particularly nice way to mark it, particularly as we'll probably be in the middle of all our road improvement scheme at that time. But it feels as if some sort of choral concert or something would be a nice way to mark it, perhaps with people from Gloucesterton, if they have a choir still. I know nothing.
They do, yes, they do.
I don't know how big they are. Whether we could sort of offer a grant to facilitate the holding of the renting of the venue or something like that to have some sort of musical event. That seems like a nice way to mark it.
I know for the 70th, it was Hayed Edge Band and Bolsterstone's choir had a show in Holmfirth Trinity Church. So it is something that happens. I think they tend to come back every sort of 10 years or so. It's quite a big deal in Bolsterstones.
Okay. Well, I guess if we could contact them sort of certainly a year out. So
yeah, sure.
In the autumn, to say, you know, we're conscious it's an anniversary coming up. We'd be happy to support you and you know, perhaps facilitate an event. I must admit, the one that caught my eye, rather than Honley show, I'm not quite sure when Honley show will know if it's able to go ahead this year, because obviously it couldn't happen last year.
It's planned for October,
but because it's fabulous, and I don't think we've given them a grant in the last couple of years, to be honest. I know we used to have a stand at the Honley show for some time, but potentially we could sponsor something. They have lots of trophies that they give to finest cow and prettiest chicken and all those sort of things. Whether there's an opportunity to have sponsor a trophy, so I don't know whether we could maybe proactively contact the Honley show organisers and say, you know, the council would like to mark the 100th anniversary of the show in some way. Are there any particular awards or trophies that perhaps we could make a contribution towards the prize and the purchase of a trophy or something like that? Home Moss transmitter was the one that caught my eye, actually, because is that
the 70th? Is it? Is that right? 70th?
Yeah.
1852 to 1851. Sorry, 1951. Is that right? 1951. Oh, 70th. 1951 to 2021.
Testing the mental maths, isn't it? I mean, I suppose 75th is more of a thing than 70th, but it'd be quite interesting to know whether Arkiva, who run it, don't they, whether they mark any of these anniversaries. Because again, if that's this year, I don't know what time of year it was built or anything like that, but you know, a nice little thing in the middle of the summer of people gathering would be lovely. But again, we don't know with COVID whether that's going to be but I wonder if it's worth us preemptively again writing to Arkiva and say we note that there's an anniversary of 70 years. It's an iconic item on our skyline. We'd be interested in exploring with you how we can mark this occasion.
So it seems like for all three that probably could be a way to progress it. Rich, in terms of Honley, because their website's still showing that they're hoping to do. Well, we're maybe thinking of doing it in June, which is their
I know
tradition.
that-
Has somebody messaged you to say they are looking
Well,
to push it back?
My post to the Honley history group turned into a bit of a war, really, because is it June McLean? June McLean, is that?
Yeah.
So she basically announced on there that the show had been put back to October, but everybody else was kind of like, how come we didn't know? How come we didn't know this? So I think October is the plan currently.
Right. Okay. Well, that would give us time to do something. And if there was, because they do quite a lot of craft stuff and things for kids and baking, and there's a whole range of stuff. So if there was something that was appropriate, some sort of community thing, or even something for the committee, really, for the people that have, kept it going, because they're the hardworking people behind the scenes who've been at this. Many of them will have been on it for 50 years. I would imagine. So it's certainly worth reaching out to them. But I think we've got some. That means we have got time on all of these to come back to it at the next meeting, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much for your research.
Another one we have forgotten, actually, which is not a local one, but isn't it Prince Philip's 100th birthday?
Right, might well be. Yeah.
This year.
I don't know without Googling.
So
it.
that might be worth one to put in the calendar and check, really, because if that's the case, there might be things what's going on all around the country.
That's true. I mean, we do still have a royal events budget separate to our sort of other commemorations budget. So
Yeah, but I think it is 100 this year. I'm sure you were 99 last year.
Right.
His birthday's 10th of June, so it's not that far away, really, before if he makes 100, which still seems to be in reasonable health, doesn't he? But well, maybe just research it.
Then, please, Mr. Chairman, that if can we say like he is going to be 100, so we can get some things moved forward, that we get some ideas put forward to the next meeting to celebrate or something, or sort of a budget for something, so we don't leave it too late.
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas in mind, Jason, though, of in practice what we do?
Well, I'm just thinking, if it's going to be June, I think we've got a meeting before June, but we need to maybe get some ideas for the next meeting, for that meeting, so we can move forward. If we can start doing the process now.
Okay.
Getting some ideas for before the next meeting, even if it's just putting ideas for community groups for a grant again.
Okay.
I just noticed the second hit on Google is an article in Vanity Fair when he's saying he doesn't want a fuss and he doesn't want to have anything to do with celebrations. So, and I guess with everything else that's going on at the moment, and with it's certainly worth looking into, I think. So let's see if there's any, and see if any other parishes are doing anything as well, perhaps.
Yeah, well, I'll look into that. If you all just keep your eyes out, and if you think of anything you think would be good to do, then just pass it on to me. But I'll have a general hunt about.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Are we happy to move on then? Next item. The last item, Jason, we discussed a few suggestions which are all coming up on the agenda about notice boards and about signs for the maintenance contractor and about high-vis jackets. And so there's a number of related items which particularly the second item about typeface refers to. But the first one, which this has been pushed back a little bit, hasn't it, Rich? We've got an update on where we are with the plaques that we wanted to put on the Civic Hall and the toilet. Do you want to just talk to that briefly, Rich?
Yeah, I submitted the application, as you saw, but when I was doing it, I was thinking, oh God, I've never done one of these before. I wonder if I'm going to get laughed at the planning committee when it comes up. So, so I've sent that off, but I got an email today from Kirklees Planning saying that it's going to be delayed somewhat. Well, they asked for a delay, to be honest, due to COVID, because they're not able to do site visits at the moment. So, if we're okay with it, I'm just going to say, we're okay to delay it until, post COVID-19.
It is what it is, isn't it?
So I'm assuming if between now and the next committee they say yes, because we've already agreed where those would go, I'm assuming we we're asking the clerks just to crack on with that and speak to the maintenance guy and get them put
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
So we're all happy that they're good to go. It's just we're waiting on a nod from the council.
That's
Yeah.
right. It's just a note, really. It's there's no action in particular.
Can I ask? Would it be worth to put it on Facebook page on the 31st of March just to say it's the 4th year anniversary of the, handing the keys over? Would that be a worthwhile thing to do?
Absolutely.
How many years is that, Jason? 4? You say 4?
Yeah, 2017 we handed the keys over to then Councillor Patrick.
Right.
Judith Patrick. I don't know if she was a councillor by then or not, but it was Judith Patrick. I handed the keys over with. I think Kath Belling was there at the same time as well.
Yeah. And hopefully by then it'll be becoming a bit more clear what can happen in the near future, won't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Next item then. And Richard, I don't know how many of you can see your papers, but Richard supplied us with a few potential fonts that we could use for the parish council because for these various signs and other things that we're looking to make.
I do know that a lot of them look very similar.
Just had anybody? Yeah, Rachel, do you want to speak first? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say the one that we use for our minutes and things like that generally is Calibri. It's a fairly standard text, but I personally find it quite clear and easy to read. I don't like the ones that look more bold, like to Homer and Franklin Gothic Medium. And I think the more traditional ones are sort of can be a bit twiddly for signage. So personally, I'd go for Calibri, but I mean, there isn't a huge amount to choose between them. It's just about choosing one, really.
Yeah, it is.
I'm happy with Calibri.
Yeah, I like.
Well, I quite liked, and I think Richard said it's that balance, isn't it, between it being clear, but also whether it should be more traditional. So those first ones, to me, felt more traditional, and they jumped out at me more. The Callisto and the Glen, one beginning with G. I can't read my own writing.
Garamond.
Oh, the Giorgio.
Georgia.
But I am fairly relaxed about it. But it just feels that one. You could argue all day about what font. We just need to be consistent. I think that's probably the main thing. Has Kath or Ben got any strong views? Ben's already.
I quite like the Calibri, but then I think the Cambria is quite nice as well. I quite like the ones where the text is not too thick, but it's a bit thicker. I think the thinner texts are a bit twiddly, but Cambria is quite a nice one in between the two. As you say, it doesn't matter hugely, but yeah.
Any thoughts, Kath? Can you see what we're talking about, Kath? Have you got hard copies of the paper? You're muted, we can't hear you talking. Yeah, we've got you now.
Are we talking about that one?
No.
No, we're talking about, you see, I don't know if you'll be able to see that.
Section D on your paperwork, Kath.
Richard mocked up some different, what they call fonts, designs of writing that we could use.
I think one thing.
D on your top right-hand corner, Kath.
The plaques that we had are in a different text, which is more traditional, which I think is right.
Yeah.
Personally, I think plaques are different to signage that's for legibility.
Yeah, I think the plaque, when
Yeah.
I sent them design, it was in Times New Roman. Whether they kept it as Times New Roman, I'm not entirely sure, but that's what I sent the design in. So
This is primarily for the signs, the public toilet signs, and which other signs, Rich, are we talking about?
the maintenance contractor sign, the sign outside the Civic Hall, and the one by the toilets, and anything else, I suppose, that we use subsequently.
I have seen them, and I can't find where they are now.
Can Rich share his screen or something?
Yeah, I probably can.
I mean, they're basically for information signs, aren't they? They're for telling people where things are.
Is that shared?
Yeah, that's shared. Rich.
Yeah, can you see that now, Kath? So we were, I quite like this first set, which have basically got, they've got a bit more shape to the H and the V in the if Rich goes down to the bottom, you'll see the other ones haven't got any twiddles on the lettering. It's just much more straightforward, like the classic Arial and Cambria, which is the stuff that we use. This is.
You know, I have looked at these, but
So which ones do you prefer out looking at the screen, Kath? Can you see the Arial Calibra one? So there's those ones that are more in that style, and then there's the other style that's slightly more.
Can you put the picture up?
Which picture? What do you mean?
All we're talking about, Kathy, is not the picture of what the thing looks like. We're talking about this type of script that we use.
Oh, right.
So it's literally a choice between, because Rich, if we're going to get things made, we need to decide whether to put it in this style of writing, or that more, slightly more modern, what I think of as corporate sort of writing, really. But have you got any strong views on it? If you haven't, I mean, we'll just.
Well, I haven't really. I mean, I will go with what everybody thinks should be on.
Okay. All right. Jason, have you got any strong views?
Well, I'm just looking at the sign outside the picture of outside the thing how Home Firth looks on the building itself. I'm just trying to see what it looks like on here, and it does more like Canberra on the the Home Firth Civic building itself. I don't know if you can see that on the paper. See, if you look at the picture inside, which is a picture of the front of the building where the plaque will be. Yeah. If you have a look at that, if you look at the writing on there, it is Cambria.
It won't affect the plaque, bear in mind, because the plaques are already.
No, I'm not about the plaque itself. I'm on about, if you look on the building, it says Home Firth Civic Hall.
Okay. Yeah.
If you look at the Home Firth, the writing on there, it is more Cambria.
It isn't. It's got serif. It's a serif font. That is. It's got little twiddles on the end of it, I think.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I'm just looking at that to see if that's the type of thing we want to keep from that style, because it's our building.
Not doing a very good job.
I suppose the more the actual parish logo is the more. That's actually our brand, isn't it, Rich? I don't know if you can pull up one of the papers up that's got the parish logo on it, because that was. It's on the contractor sign. If that helps.
How far down was that? Further. Oh, it's
next one down there. See, that's more in that. That's more in that sort of Callisto, Georgia style, isn't it? But is anybody playing? Have you got any?
We should maybe keep the same style all the way through, so it's easy to continue. It's an easy thing to go to.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Rachel, have you got any thoughts on it? Ben thought Cambria.
I can see the point in sticking with the twiddly bits, given it's within our logo. I hadn't compared those, but I'd go for the clearer text rather than the bold text, because we can always make text bold, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas if your typeface already looks bold, so I'm just thinking Cambria and Georgia look quite chunky, and that's not on bold. That's just normal.
No, I think they are bold, actually. I think I put them all bold.
Oh, did you?
I think so.
Okay. I mean, in practice, most of our signs are going to have capital letters throughout anyway.
Yeah.
you know, like public toilets will have it in capital letters, I think.
And I would make the point as well that in terms of, because what we're basically talking about here is the headline fonts, the headline typeface. We can certainly use Calibri because Calibri is probably one of the most useful fonts to use for your general text, because it's one of the very clear fonts. So, you know, just because you use a headline font doesn't mean that you don't, you know, you couldn't use the headline font for every bit of our text because it would look ridiculous. It would look very old-fashioned, and it's about the balance between the kind of old-fashionedness and being clear and you know. So I do think there's a, you know, I do think it's potentially about having a more traditional font for the headline text, and then something like Calibri for the more descriptive text.
Okay. Well, that seems a reasonable compromise. So we do, whenever we reference Home Valley Parish Council, we do it in a font that was closer to what we use on our plaque, our whatever you call the circular logo that is the parish council. But then for the actual text underneath, we'd use Calibri perhaps. Calibri. I'm happy with that.
Now we have Calistro for the bold and Calibri for the other part. Would that make it easier to make a proposal like that?
Yeah, well, Callisto, I was quite drawn to Callisto, and it ties in with what Rachel was saying about not having it overly bold.
Yeah, I propose that we have Calistro for the bold bits, and for the rest is Calibri.
We all happy with that? Rachel, happy with that?
I'm happy with that. I'm just conscious of, like, when we have the sign on the back of the toilets that says High Valley Parish, well, I'm trying to remember what it says now. It just has a logo and says public toilets. I would expect that to be in the Callisto then. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Or you might say Home Valley Parish Council. I mean, it depends what you're going to say. Is it going to say Home Valley Parish Council and public toilets on there?
I sent you a document with an example.
Yeah.
Which I think just has the logo, and then hang on, let me. Oh, I can't. So I've got your screen all over my screen. Hang on. I can't open my document because my screen's blocked. Hang on. Let me just find it. Because I mean we're trying to use the logo wherever possible, because the logo is what we're trying to build recognition of what the logo is really. Sorry, let me just dig out what the sign was that the rear of toilet block sign. Oh, I just suggested there that we have the logo, because the logo already says Home Valley Parish Council within it, so it seems a bit unnecessary to repeat it.
Yeah.
And then public toilets underneath. So I guess public toilets would be in. So what did we call the text?
The one that you said first, the one that we use for the parish paperwork anyway. Calibri, is it? Calibri?
I thought we were saying we went for the other thing.
No, that was only, well, I think the compromise was that if we ever wrote Home Valley Parish Council, we'd write it in the fonts with the twiddly bits on, possibly Callisto.
Okay, so
a better example of this is when we come onto the parish site, the maintenance sign, because that would have the current version of that has got both. So I'm going to confuse people because I'm flipping around the agenda, but that's a device that has got both Home Valley Parish Council written in words underneath the logo, and then some phrasing under it.
Okay, no, that makes sense when you look at that particular sign. Then yes. So with the traditional one for, what was it, Callisto for Home Valley Parish Council and Calibri for supporting text, which is what Jason proposed. So shall I second it and should we take a vote on it?
Yeah, okay. So we've got 2 votes for. Ben and Kathy, are happy with that?
I mean, that's
yeah.
Okay. Right.
I'm having can you still see me?
Yeah.
Because I'm having a problem. I can see Jason now. I don't know what's happened to my laptop.
I think you probably need to drag the Zoom screen so you can see everybody. I think because if it's too small on your screen, it will only show a few people at a time.
Can we keep going while Kath?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
So the next agenda, I'm trying to scan back and forth on this all in one document, but I don't want to lose where I am for the detail on here. So the next item on the agenda, can anybody help me? I know it's something. I know it's one of. It's probably possibly the maintenance sign, isn't it, Rich?
Yeah, it is. Yes, yes.
All right. So the next actually item on the agenda is this maintenance sign. And again, Rich has done a mock-up of that, which might be helpful to share it for Kath's benefit if Kath hasn't got it in front of her. And this again, we've got some quotes on it. It's really just to inform us where we're at with it, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not doing a very good job at sharing here.
So are we saying that the font would change on this then, Rich, in light of what we've just said? Otherwise, it's that layout.
Yeah, that's the idea. So basically, it's the Home Valley Parish Council crest, and then I did a sort of stylized home moss, road to home moss, and then originally I did it in this quite modern looking rounded font and like a script underneath. But obviously, I can just change it to Callisto and Calibra, and take it from there.
Yeah, that's right. Are we all happy? Jason, the purpose of this, Meltham do it. It's so when we've got our contract, our maintenance person on certain sites, people can see who's actually doing the work.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
And we can use it for if we do climate change committee, if they do a public event, it's a movable sign. I think that's what we're going for, isn't it, Rich? So
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Okay, cool.
Okay then.
Can I just ask that when you update it with the fonts that we talked about, I think the working for you looks quite nice when it's italics, or it's a bit more.
Okay.
I don't know, it's got a flow to it. So just make sure that the text kind of. Well, I'm happy for you to make the call, Rich, as to what looks best. But
sure. Well, I'll circulate it before I send it off. We've already ordered it, but they haven't actually seen the design yet until we pay, and I can't pay until after F&M.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, and then we've got this next item then is council notice boards, and these are in two formats. One, the one that's going to be outside the Civic Hall, and that's been delayed as Rich. Well, Rich, do you want to just give us a quick update on where we are with both the notice styles of notice boards? One's the parish notice boards, the other one's like a community notice board, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the one for the toilets, everything's been held up basically by the fact that I missed the last council meeting to have the payment authorised, so it's going to have to be the next F&M on the 1st of March. I basically had a hunt around for notice boards which would go outside the home for toilets, and circulated it to the chair and vice, and I think we decided that this example that had somewhere where we could put Home Valley Parish Council and then the crest above, and the suggestion was that we have a sign of a size of notice board that would fit 9 sheets of A4, so sort of a tall and thin, with the parish council crest and the sign and the name above, and that fits quite well with the size of the space we've got by the toilets. The only thing I've really said to decide really is about the thickness of it. There's two options basically. There's one that's where the thickness of the sign is only like about 1 inch, and then the one at the bottom it's sort of 2.5 inches. I mean, it's pretty much of a muchness. We certainly don't need the space. It was just I wasn't sure whether it would be more sturdy if we went for the thicker one. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. There's about £50 in the difference of the price, but that's it really. Do you want me to share the picture?
Yeah, and then I know Rachel had replied by email on this. Rachel, do you want to speak first and then Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I wondered about how sturdy they were, but then to be honest, I was a bit worried if something sticks out too far. I think people will end up leaning on the notice board anyway. So I think the closer it is to the wall, the better, and therefore the thinner one is better, because I think we'll only ever be putting bits of paper in there rather than larger things, which some people may put bigger things in their notice boards than we do.
Yeah.
Right, so the one at the top is kind of how it would look colour wise and in terms of design, although narrower and a little longer basically. So 3 by 3 rather than 3 by 2, I suppose, as that is. And as I've said at the bottom, the differences in price are so it's that one is 476 plus VAT, and the other one's 426 plus VAT.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't pay the VAT, so it's not relevant. But so 426, I think, is Councillor Hogley's suggestion, and I tend to think that's probably quite a positive one.
Yeah. Jason, did you want to say something on it?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I prefer the top one, because the one at the bottom looks like it's shouting at you with capital letters all the way through. It does look a bit smarter with the way it's done on the top one.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yes, yes. Well, I'll put it in lower case then, if that's
yeah. It just looks like it is shouting at you, and also I don't know, it just looks a bit tacky, the size of it all the way down, you know, because it's like 30 to fit in the full notice board. I don't know if it's just because of the size difference between our badge on top, but I think the top one looks a lot smarter all the way through.
Okay, and it's a magnetic board. It's not a pin board. So I'll order. I think you order 36 magnets. It'll come with for the 9 A4 sheets basically. So I'll order that on top.
And they're obviously locked in the cabinet anyway, so nobody can take them. Yeah.
I prefer the top one as well.
Okay. Cool.
Okay then. Well, this is all just a note really, because it's work in progress, isn't it, Rich? And then we've got we've also haven't quite got around to getting the formal parish notice board outside the civic sorted out, but the maintenance contract has been a bit delayed, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know what sort of time frame we're looking at really for that. I suppose it's with everything else. It's just a wait and see, really.
Yeah.
Alex,
Yes, Rachel.
can I just mention because while we're still talking about notice boards on the toilets, we also agreed at the previous meeting to have a sign on the rear of the toilets. So I just wonder if it's worth sharing the mock-up of what that would look like.
Have you found?
Have you got that, Rich?
Probably have, but have you found it or not?
Well, I found it, but whether I can get it to share on the screen, I don't know.
Jason, the purpose of this was to make it more obvious that we own that toilet block building.
Yeah, that was decided on the meeting before, the one I missed, so that we was going to put a sign on the back of the toilets. And I agreed with that one already.
Yeah, well, it's
I made a comment that it was advertised for the Monty's. It was on the back of there, and nobody knew that it was Parish Council on the building, not Monty's. Share
my screen and I'll see if it works.
Have I shared screen?
You've disabled participant screen sharing, it says.
Oh yeah, sorry, that was my fault.
Right. I don't know if this will work. I don't have much luck with.
Is that an option now?
Hang on, yeah. Right, I think this is one.
Yeah.
Can you all see that? Are you all looking at the back of the toilets?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'd get rid of the ladies and the gents signs, and then it's just a that sort of size, which would be about 6 bricks high and about 2 bricks wide, just has our crest, and then public toilets. I don't think we need arrows. I don't think, we've got to be conscious it's in a conservation area and it just needs to be visible, but a nice sign made of just thin, I think you get them out of aluminium, but fairly simple really.
Well, would that in the middle, or would that be where you suggested it, Councillor Ogwood?
No, I'm suggesting it's there because the entire building is no longer the toilets. So the toilets are at that end. So if people see the sign at that end, they're more likely to walk around that end.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I? Sorry. I know it sounds a daft question, this, but is that the colour you're thinking of as well, black, or is that just like a template of what it looked like?
No, I was going to suggest black because generally white writing on black is, or on a dark colour, is a lot easier to read than dark writing on white signs, which is why lots of signage has changed in that way in sort of stations and things like that. To make it easier to read, and I thought black was a colour that just fitted with the style of the building rather than us choosing to go green or anything, because then it makes the logo clear and also the writing clear.
That's okay. I was just asking a question. That's all.
No, it's fine. That was my logic with choosing black.
Okay.
Right. So that's all work in progress as well then. Yeah. And we can use the new fonts, the agreed fonts for that. Okay, thanks for that.
I'll stop there. There we go. Is that this bit? Cool.
Okay, then next item, press coverage. So Richard's included in a scan of the December publication of the Home Valley Review. And I'm assuming because it says on the agenda a February edition, then because the Home Valley Review have reduced their circulation or their print runs. So we're looking at the next one being in February. And it's the usual discussion item about is there any articles for discussion or that we could include. One thing I had, I'm hoping Rachel will support this. We agreed at the last full council a sort of strategic plan, and I wondered if the column device that you created, that I'm trying to think if we can really do justice to what we've agreed in a small article that included some sort of diagrammatic document, but that seemed like quite an important thing that the parish has agreed to.
Could we do that as a separate news item anyway, instead of putting our column?
We could pay them some extra money and have they're always after extra money. Not that we haven't got it.
It would make more sense to do as a separate news item, so it's more, gives it more space for what we need to put on than a little column that in our little quarter.
Yeah. Any views on, any views on generally on anything we could put in? Because I'm half guessing February might be a bit of a lean time anyway in terms of news.
We've got a list of of articles already prepared, though, haven't we?
Yeah, Liz has written a few already, and I think Councillor Hogley's reviewed a few. Is that right?
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I've Liz sketched some out, and I've we edited them.
Yes.
Rephrased some of them because I thought it's so if you look at the document that we've got in our papers.
Sorry. Yeah.
Obviously, the Happy New Year may not be relevant anymore because I don't know what's the date. What's the print date?
Mid-February, they said. So it's
Yeah.
out now.
Oh, I see. So these are already being printed then.
No.
Oh, okay.
They said they're going to be asking. They're going to be asking for the documents in the next week or so.
Okay.
It'll be the end of the month.
Bother having Happy New Year anymore because it doesn't really seem appropriate.
No.
But I think the reason behind these ones were the youth facilities and the fact that there was a dog waste glove dispenser. I think we've now got two more of those, haven't we?
Yeah.
I think it was Rycroft Lane, but I'm sure there was another one that was mentioned on the website or on our Facebook page or something. Rich?
Yeah, that's right. I think we've got two more now.
And then I think it's important to keep pushing the fact that we've got grants. And then and I do think the article about our budget is important.
Yeah.
Saying basically what we've said we're going to do going forward. And about the new procedure for grant applications, I think those are really important, but also reflecting on the fact that we have given quite a bit of money to different groups. And in fact, the other one to add to our groups is the Hepworth Band as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Happened since this article was rephrased.
Yeah, I shared their little story.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely, that's a very positive story.
So I
Do we-
guess what I would ask is if Rich can just review these articles and just add in any other grants that we've given since this was, because this is like 4 weeks old or something.
Yeah.
And add in the extra dog waste bag dispenser. But otherwise, I would say we should go with these articles for this month, aside from getting rid of the Happy New Year. And then I think, depending when the next article is, I do think we should do something about our strategic vision. But I wonder if we should do it as a separate article once all the committees have had a chance to at least have a bit of a think about how they're going to maybe approach some of these things.
Because we did ask the committees as well to also think of taking it in turns to submit a paragraph that could go in, didn't we, for each committee?
Yeah.
Judging by well, some of these obviously do tie into the committees that are dealing with grants. So we think if we look, you think lose Happy Christmas, Happy New Year, because it'll just be February and too late, really.
Yeah.
I wondered about the grant thing, because that's not starting till April, and actually we're not needing invitations until August. There's not really a massive pressure to get that out this early, really.
Well, I think there is, because otherwise people will expect us to be considering grant applications straight after Easter.
I agree on that one. Yeah, I think we need to get the information out to give people a chance to understand what we're doing.
But any applicants, I'm relaxed either way. But any applicants that get in touch with the clerks would be told that anyway, wouldn't they? As part of their, I'm assuming there'll be a standard reply to any new applicants telling them what the new procedures are that we would work into.
But I think it'd be helpful to get the information up front so people can start planning, trying to thinking, well, we can apply for a grant from the council because they take grants from April, then realise they have to wait till August. I think we need to get the information up front so they know where they're up to, so they know how to plan for things.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So we've probably got enough copy there then. So we'd have to think, and that gives a bit more time to hopefully progress that strategic plan into some practical actions that have happened, and also think about how whether we do need to pay for more space to tell that story more effectively. Because we have got a budget, haven't we, Rich? There's quite a lot of underspend on that particular budget line at the moment because of fewer applications this year.
Yeah, there definitely is. Yeah.
Jason, do you want to say something else?
Yeah, I was just wondering, do we need to mention anything about your neighbourhood plan, Councillor Hogley? Because are we still voting on it in May? Do we need to get people to start thinking about that?
We don't need to mention that this month because we're still waiting for Kurt Lees to agree to who the examiner is going to be. I think once we know who the examiner is and the timescales for that become clear, then I think there is time for an update. You're right, because we need to keep providing the messages. But at the moment, there isn't really anything substantive to say, to be honest, other than we're waiting for the examiner to look at our plan. But I do think it would be helpful if we can get an indication from the Home Value Review as to when they anticipate the next few publications being. So obviously they often have a big gap in the winter, but hopefully they will resume sort of monthly publishing before long.
Yeah.
I think they were basically saying that everything was fairly flexible at the moment. That's the problem. I don't think they are too set in stone, unfortunately. But I can certainly ask them.
Well, it's hard for her to even get business income if hairdressers don't know if they can advertise that they're open, isn't it? So it must be quite a challenging time for her in terms of getting the advertising income that makes it work. Okay, we're happy to move on. We've got 15 minutes if we work to time. There's a series of updates. These are all just to note really on some progress and things that have happened with our various social media channels, both on the website itself. Rich, do you want to talk to that?
Well, I've tried to be a bit more, highlighting grants and sharing the thing from Hepworth Band Room, and what was the other one? The Holmfirth Bowl and District Bowling Club. I've shared that one. I'm probably trying to share a bit more with through the community group as well, but probably need to get a bit better at that. In terms of the website, as you know, I've obviously put on the council's attendance records. We still, you know, you probably noticed we've still got quite a few at 100%. It's very impressive. So, in fact, two in this virtual room are on 100%. So, I think that's potentially quite a positive thing. Members of the public are looking at it. So, and then obviously the YouTube channel. Obviously, Councillor Carey did publicise the channel after the situation with the Handforth meeting, and so I think we're over 600 views for this last council meeting, which is much higher than our usual view count. So we are being watched, I suppose.
Yeah, I watched it. I'd looked how many people had seen that YouTube. Basically, I put a link to our last full council meeting on the community page and reference what had happened that was all over the news, just to remind people that we've got a parish council and you can look at our meetings and they're well-natured. And we got 200 extra viewings within about 12 or 24 hours, and then we've got another couple of hundred after that. So it just seemed like too good an opportunity to miss, to remind people that there actually was a parish council here as well. Although obviously we wouldn't really want to be associated with everything that had gone on in Handforth, but everybody was talking about it, so it seemed too good an opportunity to miss, really.
We're lucky they didn't use the one from last year where we had the incident with the swearing with Councillor Dalton. That people referenced that, because we could have been hanging our heads in shame with that. So we're lucky that you chose a good one to.
It is there. It is on the web. It is on the YouTube channel. So
I mean, the one that you promoted was it was a good one, not one of the bad ones.
Okay, well, we're going to obviously that's going to continue, and it's good. I think that we're getting. I see Rich posting a few things in the name of Deputy Clerk on, and particularly the questions you're asking on Handforth history about events and other things. So I think that's all really positive, really, because it does show a different face to the parish, doesn't it? Okay, is that all right? Any more to say on that, anybody? Right. Annual awards. I'm not sure if you were around, Jason, when we basically said that this was still all on hold, really, for all the reasons you'd expect. So there's...
Yeah. The only thing we we had a question last year was about we was holding back the annual awards because obviously COVID, but we do think about doing something for, as in the representing what the heroes of the community for the COVID. Are we deferring that to the end of COVID still, or has that been taken down?
Personally, I think, as one of the people who's very active in this world and in weekly meetings with different people, I still think it's too early, because there's a lot of volunteers are now working on the community clinics, and it'd be hard.
Are we after when so-called COVID is finished? Are we going to do something for the community to say, like, congratulations, we got through, well done?
Yeah. Well,
is that still the plan? That's what I'm asking, because it's not on there. It just says future awards. So
I think we agreed we'd revisit it when the dust had settled a little bit after COVID, and I think the dust hasn't settled. That's where I think we need to leave this as an agenda item for the next meeting.
Well, I appreciate
the time's right. We'd want to reinstitute this anyway, wouldn't we? And there's a number of businesses that have really gone above and beyond in terms of stepping up, but equally there's a lot of other businesses that have been shut down, without any say in the matter. So even that's a slightly difficult one to praise one business when others are sort of licking the wounds, or in some cases will have folded.
Yeah.
So I think it's still deferred. Yeah, Rachel, do you want to say anything? Yeah.
Yeah, I just think at the moment we're best to, as you say, defer until the world is far more back to normal. But just make sure we keep doing what we're doing in terms of reminding people that we are giving grants to support organisations and keep community assets and services going, because that is part of being a community. And I think the challenge with things like Tidy Trader and community champions to some extent is who you choose. Then inherently people say, well, why didn't you choose so and so? And I think in this particular instance there are so many either sung or unsung heroes across the valley. It would be a very difficult challenge to pick out individuals, be they individual businesses or individual people, because I think there's an awful lot of people who have gone above and beyond, and I think it's probably best to think about doing some sort of just celebrating things that are going on in the community again, which is sort of what we do. And actually, by virtue of the fact we boosted our grants budget as a council as well, we should be able to support more community events across the valley next year, which would be nice. And we can maybe, once things are clearer as to what kind of community events people will be able to have during the next financial year, we should make more of that, I think, because we're often seen, I think, as sort of Home Firth centric often, but Home Firth and Honley centric, when actually there's no reason the smaller villages who organise local fetes or galas or whatever couldn't receive some support from us as well.
Okay, yeah, happy to move on then. Next item again is just an update on previous decision to purchase High-Vis jackets. So, and Rich has again, I think you added some mock-ups in the text.
Oh yeah, well, I did
a loan agreement.
I did like a booking form thing for loaning it out. Yeah, share it. Well, I think they turned out pretty well, really.
So have you actually got them in hand now? Are they in the office?
Yeah. They've been.
Of course, yeah, because I've messaged you.
Yeah.
I'm not. I thought one of the people that might use them actually would be the people doing the clinics at the moment. But I noticed that Home Firth Tech have actually just had some of their own made, and I'm pretty sure at Honley they've got some as well. So right. I think it's less likely they'll be used by those volunteers at the moment.
But I'll. So shall I just stick it? Put it on the website and Facebook to say that we've got them. Is that where we're going now?
If it's on the website, that'd be really helpful, because I can then send that as a link to anybody I see asking about community events and say, have you thought about borrowing these? So if it lives as a feature on the website,
yeah,
if that makes sense, that'd be helpful.
Well, I can leave it as the head news item forever. Basically, I can, as long as you keep changing the date, it stays at the top of the news board.
Yeah. Jason.
Yeah, I know it sounds great, it sounds silly, but when we get back, who's doing the laundering?
They are.
Because obviously with the COVID and all that, I'm just worried that what's the agreement? If somebody takes them down laundries, how do we get them back? And what's the procedure?
It says here. We do ask that the vests are washed after use, and the borrowers make every effort to return all vests that you borrow.
Yeah, the point. No, what I mean is the washing, but how do they return them? How are we asking them to return? Because they still have to either hand them to you, or are we asking them to put them in a sealed bag after being laundered? Because obviously with the COVID at the moment, do we need to take the extra precaution for the time being? Because if I know there's a sale-by date once they've been cleaned and people touching them, it could be weeks where they die off. But if they get borrowed the next day, there's potential that you're spreading. So do we need to think about that before we advertise it?
Rachel?
I think we just need to make sure that, it says they should be washed, and you would expect anyone who wants to borrow them will have to communicate with the parish council, and specifically Rich or Liz, to enable borrowing. So if they're being borrowed by someone, then at the moment during COVID, then we need to say, right, well, if you're able to bring them back on a Friday, we won't then be able to loan them out till at least 72 hours afterwards. And you'd expect people to bring them in a plastic bag, and then you just leave it in the corner of the office until it can be loaned out again. Obviously, in the long run, we can be a little bit more flexible about those things, but I don't think that's unreasonable. Plenty of people are doing, click and collect and getting takeaways and all that sort of thing. So I don't think people are nervous about putting things in a bag and handing it over. But you're right about the fact that we shouldn't then take them from one group and give them straight back out to another. I think we should say that they're kept in the office for a few days. But I think that can be. I don't think that needs to be on the form. I think that's just something that Rich or Liz can speak to them about during this period.
Sure.
That's fair enough, then, yeah. Okay.
It's a good point, Jason.
Yeah, it's good.
Just out of interest, the volunteers at the COVID clinic that's run by the GPs, there's basically just a pile of high-vis vests, and you just grab one, and when you finish, you dump it in the pile, and somebody else picks it up. So there's no attempt whatsoever to any COVID security. But it is a good point, and we can I think do quite a simple solution of just leaving it in a bag for 3 days. Okay, aware that we've only got 7 minutes of Ben, so we want to start the conversation about the last item. It's the last but one item, which is about how we can create the space and the technology and everything else to make our teleconferencing options better. I'm not. Were you at the last full council, Jason? I'm not sure if you were. That there was.
No, I couldn't get on.
There was huge. You might have a strong view on this, and if you struggled to get on, I was very, very surprised at just how strong the support was for carrying on with online meetings, particularly in terms of access. Kath made the point at our last meeting actually about, particularly for people visiting us, it's a lot easier for people to just check in online to do a 5-minute input on a grant request or ask a question. So there does seem to be a lot of advantages, and there was wide support for it. The question for us then is what equipment do we need, and how much do we want to spend, and what quality of experience do we want to create? Because obviously at the high end it's very expensive. So this is a bit of a conversation about that, which has sent some stuff out. Jason, do you want to come in first?
Yeah, I don't know if Councillor Hogley and Councillor Bellamy remember this, but we had this conversation when we first moved into the Civic Hall, and it was like a sort of a overhead projector which were connected to the obviously the phone line, where we could do this sort of thing already. Because one of the main concerns was is people getting into our office. Obviously we've got some councillors with health issues where mobility is not the best thing for them, and this sort of solution could be ideal for them. So I am quite up for the idea that we do have like a Zoom facility, because other councils do have this sort of thing as well. And if you look at the government, what the government doing, they do this already, and I think it's a great idea as an asset. It was suggested to, as I said, like, I don't know if you remember in the old buildings when we used to do the planning applications, that we used to have a projector which used to project onto the wall. And I think Miss Barber did come up with an idea. I don't know if it's been lost in the realms of meetings, but she did come up with a solution where it was a whole projector, and we have a screen at the end of the room where they go onto that. So it has been discussed before and it's sort of agreed, but we never got any prices. So we're sort of asking for the same thing again. I don't know if you Councillor Hogley and Councillor Bellamy remember this conversation. It was about probably 4 years ago now when we had this conversation.
Yeah, Rachel.
I think that's right. It was sort of loosely talked about, and the fact, and we've also more recently talked about filming our meetings and what cameras might be required for that. I think I think I've said before, there's kind of two different elements really. There's one is whether councillors can then partake in meetings virtually, which actually is a different question, which is a legislative one as well, because at the moment we've got the permission to do it until May, but after that there's this whole consultation about whether it'll be permitted for, say, half the room to be remote and half the room to be physically present, and whether their votes would still count. So I think that's slightly out of our hands, and to my mind you actually need a much more sophisticated system if we're going to end up with multiple councillors on screens where you can then engage in the sort of toing and froing of debates. I think for the and I'm not saying I'm averse to that, but the costs of some of this is quite eye-watering if we want to go to town with it. And I think from a simple perspective, we just want to be able to see and hear a member of the public, and they need to be able to see and hear at least the chair and the vice chair. I don't think they actually need to be able to hear everybody, because it needs to be, questions can be funneled through the chair for the ease of the communication, so that you just have a microphone facility near the, because of the shape of our chamber, you could just have a microphone facility at the far end, if you like, or near end. You can rejig the chamber. So I think at a simple level, we just need some sort of screen, which is so effectively it's just a big computer screen, which may then be plugged into a laptop, which is Wi-Fi to the office, or whatever, or indeed a projector, like Jason was mentioning. But then you need to have the means of being able to hear what's being said, which I know from practice, laptops, you can't really hear them from a distance. You need to have a small speaker facility. So again, I'm sort of thinking that actually the screen would probably be up near the chair, the chair's table with the screen. And actually, does it really matter if other councils see what the person looks like? I'd question whether it does. It doesn't really matter what someone looks like. It's what they say that's important. So I think we need at a very elementary level, we just need a mechanism for having a computer screen, which be some sort of laptop, with a separate speaker, so that everyone can hear what the person is saying. And that might need to be several different speakers, or potentially speakers in each corner of the room. And then just a camera facility, which again, if we wanted to keep it really simple, it could just be a little webcam on the connected to the laptop, so that they can see the chair and you can hear the member of the public. Now, obviously, that's just for hearing members of the public. If they want to actually, if someone wanted to do a presentation to us, then that's more complicated, because then we would need projector on a wall that everyone can see. And clearly our council chamber is not laid out in a very easy way. So you'd need, in reality, for everyone to see, you'd need 3 screens. You need one on the end, one on one wall, and one on the other wall. They need to be big enough for people to be able to see them. And so you're sort of trebling the cost, I think. And then some of the options on this are, like I've used in a business scenario, and they always look great, but they still have glitches and they still go wrong. The jabbers and whatever there are. But they connect into a big screen. But then the meeting rooms are laid out, to be fair, in a much better environment than what our long thin chamber is set out for. So I suppose for me it's about, well, what's the cheapest we could do, which might just test how it works. And then looking at some of the prices of these things, personally, I don't think we should be spending thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds on getting up the room for purely for the council meetings. If we can talk to the Civic Hall about it potentially being used as some sort of well-connected room in the future, then great. But again, the size and layout of the room doesn't make it an ideal environment for doing a video conference.
Can I just ask, before Jason, just before Ben goes, I'm assuming Ben must be clock watching.
Yeah, I'm going in like a minute.
So I just wonder, because I'm assuming I'm guessing that maybe you've experienced some of this with what colleges must be doing. And I mean, I've been on various video conferencing for many years, and in the early days, it was really difficult and it often fell over and people really struggle with the tech. I think things are getting a lot better and a lot cheaper, but they're still very expensive at the top end. I just wondered what views you've got, Ben, about...
I was just going along with Rachel, because she said what I was going to say. Basically, I think you either have a full Zoom meeting or a full in-person meeting with members of the public speaking via Zoom. But when you have situations where you've got half the councillors there on Zoom and then half in person, it tends to get really, really messy. I know from meetings at university and things like that. So yeah, I completely agree, but I got to go now. But thank you very much.
Okay, best of luck, Ben. See you now. Jason, do you want to come in now then?
Yeah, I might be wrong, but didn't the Civic Hall group was suggesting to use the office as an office to let, and they were thinking about getting that communication system in anyway, as a tool for them to let it out as a, like a meeting room for that type of thing. Maybe we need to have a chat to them. Are they still thinking about doing that, and maybe sharing costs with them? Because they were on about letting the room out.
Yeah. Kath, do you know any can you answer Jason's question? You're muted, Kath. Yeah, you can hear you now. Yeah.
I know they're planning a lot of things at the moment, and Rachel will know about this. But I can't say that. I mean, what Jason said, I think it would be a good idea. You know, if they could share it, you know, or you know, we can put it out for conferencing.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. Rachel?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, yes, maybe in the long-term aspirations of the civic, they're still thinking about that, but certainly what they're busy planning in terms of the current refurbishment works doesn't extend to huge amounts of technology improvements to that room. I think they've got bigger things that they're focusing on at the moment. So I mean, maybe in the sort of 5 to 10 year plan for the civic, I think there is that potential of making it into a meeting facility and improving the IT probably through the whole building rather than purely in the one room, which I guess is another reason why I feel we should probably understand the costs of a very simple system of a webcam, a speaker, and some sort of device, so say at that end of the room, and what that would cost, and then the sort of if you went up to having 4 speakers, so that you had them in the 4 corners, rather, because I just think you can end up spending huge amounts of money on this, and actually we might not use it very much.
Yeah,
so I think we should have something that's quite flexible.
Fair point.
Just to say my thoughts on this, very similar. I think what is tricky, and I've been in a few meetings like this where you've got 2 or 3 people. You've got a Zoom meeting like this with talking heads, and then one of the cameras is pointing to 5 or 6 people, and one that you have, unless you've got a conference mic, which again are a lot cheaper now, but often even the audio isn't there. I think it's a lot harder to chair because you can't see, those people aren't as big on your screen if you're trying to chair it. And I think, you know, to have working groups done by Zoom, I think would be by far a really set. If there's a number like we've had tonight, so it's a really easy number to manage. You know, we can make that savings of not having to go to the civic or even hire the civic room and heat it. But I think to do the hybrid of doing both at the same time is quite difficult. But the hybrid does work perfectly for a series of invited speakers who are just speaking for 2 or 3 minutes. And again, with a relatively cheap projector shined onto an A4 flip chart stand with a piece of white paper on it, would sort of work. And if we've got a decent speaker, and conference mics are relatively cheap now, they wouldn't necessarily do the whole room, but they'd do the chair and the top table. So I'd be, and I think the other thing I'd say is there's a lot of people trying to make a lot of money out of this as everybody flips over to doing things online. And I think if you leave it, you know, a year, then maybe some of those solutions will come down in price, or there'll be better solutions out there. And there's certainly some brilliant technology out there, as well as Zoom. You know, Microsoft Teams and other things are evolving all the time. So I think we need to create that opportunity for people to speak to us virtually, but let's try and do it at a low cost.
Yeah. I have a projector sheet what you could use. I've donated that anyway. It's never been used. It's still in the packaging, which is, I think it's a 52-inch, or it might be 42-inch screen, which I'll donate to the council so they could use that as a projector. It is a projector cover sheet.
Right.
So I'll donate that anyway. So that will save a cost.
Okay.
That's very good of you. Yeah. Rich, you obviously did some work in this because you came up with the documents that you attached. Is there anything you want to add? Or the other question really is what decision do we need to make a decision, or will we just where's this going to next? Because I'm assuming as soon as we get to any serious finance, it's going to have to go as a finance proposal anyway to a different committee.
Yeah, I mean, I was just sharing examples of things. It was just meant to get your brain gears working, really, to see what you thought was a sensible idea.
Do we need to take this back to the full council as a suggestion? That what we, as a community engagement, what we recommend to the full council? Is that what we have to really? Then, because for this type of cost, it'll have to go to the full council for a budget anyway.
Yeah, but I don't think we've got a clarity of what we'd be proposing at the minute. We want to have a, this is what it would look like, this would be the purpose of it, and this would be the cost. And arguably, you wouldn't buy it until such time as we've moved off having Zoom meetings anyway.
Do we need to get to this to another next meeting where we've got a better idea of what's going on with the world, and then see what we do need as a possible solution for this agenda? Item agenda.
Are we able to, because out of the documents, obviously there's quite a lot of information in what Rich has put together, but in terms of just simplifying it to the absolute basics, which is a webcam, a speaker, a projector, and whether we would use the clerk or deputy clerk's laptop, there's no reason why not. We already have the Zoom subscription, don't we? So actually, it's a pretty small cost, isn't it?
I would imagine we'll need to upgrade our internet connection because it's pretty hopeless at the moment. It takes me like a whole day I have to do all the YouTube videos at home because it'll take 8 hours to do a video at work, whereas it just takes me about an hour at home. So, I think we would need to be going to a fiber connection rather than the kind of basic connection that we're on at the moment.
So that's more of a that's quite a major point, really, isn't it? Because even when we go back to being in the office again, it sounds as if the level of internet that we have isn't as strong as we would need it to be for this to actually work, is it?
I would have thought so.
We're not going to resolve this tonight, but I think your internet speed may be the problem we've got at home. That because we had our router in an extension of an extension of an extension, when the BT engineer drilled a new hole in the wall, put it straight into our router, we literally went from 5 megabytes per second to 50. So if there's old wiring trailing all around the building up to the top office, that may actually be part of the problem. But no matter what the solution is, if we haven't got the internet speed, then it's not going to work anyway. So there's definitely another problem, isn't there? I was just wondering, Rachel, thinking of you wearing your chair hat, is this something that a mini working group could look at, come up with some options for, help take it off the clerk's desk really, and say that if there were some volunteers to look into it. Get some costings. I mean, obviously we'd have to work with Rich, and just thinking, Rich, where we can, where there is something that a working group's more appropriate. It feels like we've got a bit of time because we haven't got permission to do full online meetings yet. We're still going to be doing Zoom for at least a couple of months. So we could ask full council if there was volunteers that wanted to help look at this and shape it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I would just like to thank Rich for all the work it's looking into this.
That's okay.
Thank you, Rich.
That's okay.
Cheers, Kath. Rachel, have you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I think the other thing I think we should do though is speak to the Civic Hall about the internet connection, because if it is a case of us getting a separate line, I have no idea what our current internet arrangements are, but I'm happy to talk to the Civic Hall about the fact that we want to be able to improve our internet speed, but I don't know what speed is or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'll
It
look.
makes sense for us to at least find that out, and then we're able to find out, well, if we had to put a new line in, what's the cost associated with that? Because that's part of the thing, as you say, if the connection isn't strong enough to support having people coming in, then it's all a bit pointless. I'm happy with the working group idea. That's fine.
Yeah, Jason.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense to me, that we need to speak to the Civic Hall group, because they'll have a business interest in that, improving the internet service or on the building for future purposes. So that does completely make sense. Now, regarding going back to the full council to create a mini group, and we're better keeping it within the public comms group ourselves than taking it to the full council to come back to us to that like that. Are we better off a couple of us getting together, working together, then we'll get to report back to the full council with our conclusions. I think it'd be a more quicker process than going back to the full council, because they'll probably say delegate it back to us.
Right.
So let's just cut that middle bit out. I'm happy to work with anybody to work with this and see what we can do. But as I say, maybe we need to talk to the Civic Hall group as well.
Yeah.
Councillor people who's happy to go on the group and work with me and somebody else. They can get an answer back from them, and then we can come back with some sort of conclusion of how we can move forward with this, and come back to the next pubs meeting with some sort of answer.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Rachel looked to be nodding throughout some of what you said, so I'm assuming, do you think this does sit better with the pubs and comms subgroup than a full council one, Rachel?
If it's going to get done and not just have a half-hour debate, which is what will happen at full council as people balk about spending money on widgets and gadgets.
Okay, well,
but I am also conscious that we don't have another pubs and comms meeting until I'm just looking, until quite a long way off. So I'm struggling to see the next one. Is it? I printed out the thing that Liz sent as an updated one, and I can't see the next one's not till July. So
Yeah, that's a long time.
that's well after May.
yeah.
Yeah, 17th of May, the next one.
Well, do we want to?
There isn't one in May.
Well, we could meet, because we don't need to meet as a minuted clerk meeting, do we? We can have a working group meeting to progress it, and I'm assuming, could we take notes of a working group directly to council without coming back to the pubs and comms to sign it off?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I mean, realistically, before 17th of May, we're going to be in the same situation like this. So what we need to do is maybe get a work in progress, work as a community, as a working group, get a solution for the 17th of May to proposal. Then either would take it to the full council and say, like, this is the working committee group's suggestion, or do we take it through the pubs and comms? We've got to make his mind up. If we're doing it through pubs and comms, we've got to go, working group's got to go back to the working pubs and comms group, then take it to the full council. Otherwise, if you go to the full council to get a working group, that's going to take. Sorry, Rachel.
Yeah, I was just going to say, rather than formally calling it a working group, why don't we just delegate the response? We've agreed the principle that we need to present something to full council about a cheap and cheerful solution to allow members of the public to speak to the meeting, which is sort of because we've agreed in our discussions now that that's the kind of first step, if you like, and it might be that in the long run that we can look at how we expand that to then include councillors talking virtually and all sorts of things. But that's a bigger question. But we could agree and vote on tonight that we want to put a proposal to full council of how much that would cost to facilitate members of the public to be able to speak to us as a council in the future, as and when we return to having face-to-face meetings. And I think we could then delegate the details of the costings associated with that proposal to a group of those of us who are here. So, so like Jason, myself, working with whoever else, and Doug's, I don't know. Well, it can be all of us, it doesn't matter. But so that we can then put together a proposal that would then go to a full council, and I'm thinking it wouldn't when the next full councils are. There's one in
22nd of March is the next one.
March is the next one, yeah.
Which is the last one for this as a council year.
And if you miss that March one, then you're into the 10th of May anyway.
Yeah, but then I don't think we've got pubs and commons. According to the thing I'm looking at, we haven't got, which is what Liz sent out the other day. We haven't got pubs and commons till July.
Yeah.
But we would. I'm not sure we're going to have something ready for.
Yeah.
Might do, but.
Has Kath got a hand up? I can't see.
Oh, I was just looking at. I was just looking at what I got. Because there isn't another pubs and comms until
17th of May.
yeah,
I'm not sure.
and it's a Tuesday, isn't it?
Is it?
I'm getting confused because I got because I questioned there were some issues with the last proposed set of meetings. Liz sent another, I thought, an updated one out.
Yeah.
That hasn't. The 17th is now planning and community assets.
Yeah, that's what I've got. That's what I'm looking at.
So I can't even see a meeting on there till this only goes up to the end of June. I'm looking at the document that Liz sent by phone, but I think, yeah, we are into June, really, into July even.
Is the 5th of April still blank on your list? Because I haven't got the new list.
It's Easter,
It's Easter holiday.
Sorry?
It's Easter holiday that Monday. So that's Easter Monday.
What about the 29th of March?
No, that's got no meeting either. I don't think we don't want to have an extraordinary meeting to discuss this because I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, as a group to get together to chat about just this particular thing, really, as a group to see how far we are with progress.
Yeah, but we could do that informally. We don't need to schedule that for a Monday night.
So
Yeah, to the full council then on the next full council meeting on the 22nd of March or the one after.
I think Rachel's thinking it probably look to take it in May, aren't you, Rachel? Because
well, I think, to be honest, now I look at the timing of meetings, I think if it's going to be a material amount of money, really, if we don't have the budget and pubs and comms to do it, which, I mean, to be fair, we may still have the remaining budget unless it's all been vired by then, then should it not go through finance, who then recommend it to full council the following week? Because if we don't have the money, we can't really make the proposal without having pre-agreed with finance where it would come from. Yeah. Which would mean 26th of April would be the finance and management, and then the following week, I know it's the annual council meeting, and that's all the appointments of people.
I mean, just at the moment, I thought the idea of the working group is to get a sort of a proposal of to improve the internet service in the building and all that, and that's all we need. We don't need a grant. It's just to consider, like, this is what we propose. It's going to cost us. Then we'll go through the rooms of financial and full council to do that. I think that's all we need to do at the moment. Is just improve the internet so we can move forward on the rest of it.
I think they are different things, because I think there's one's the conversation with the Civic Hall and with our internet provider, be that BT or whoever, about internet speeds, and I think that in part probably does need to be the clerks checking about the provider, because when we had an issue here, we just got in touch with BT and they sent an engineer around, and so whoever your supplier is will do that. I'm assuming it's running off our phone line, not off the Civic Hall's phone line, so it should be our. There's a longer term conversation with the Civic about whether they've got any plans to create an all singing, all dancing conference suite. But I think the more urgent thing is that a mini working group comes up with some costings for the bronze standard solution and gets that ready for the finance meeting in April. and that can just be an informal gathering of any of us that volunteer to do it. I'd certainly be keen to be part of that. And then we just go and get some figures and put a budget together.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to be nodding. So Rich, do you think you can, the first phase of that, which is exploring the status of our internet?
Sure. Yeah.
Is that something you can?
Yeah.
Because
I'll look into
go
that.
in, they usually want you to be in though, because then they ring you up and they do tests on your line and stuff. So it needs to be usually somebody who's in the office, but
I can do that.
So I think if we saw that as a clerk's job, if we saw the costing up the bronze option as the mini working group, work towards that date of the finance. So really we need to get it done by early April, don't we? So that gives us a couple of months really, doesn't it, to gather. It can only be Googling, looking at prices of things, won't it? Well, I think we've got a consensus, haven't we? Is that, yeah? Are you clear on what we've said, Rich?
Yeah.
The minutes. Thank you. Yeah, and then I don't know how we best take forward the longer conversation with the civic committee about what their plans are for that room in terms of other space. I mean, because if they are thinking of doing that anyway, obviously, but I can't imagine that that's going to be a priority for them at the minute, from what Kath said.
I think we still need to ask the question to them though before we can sort of make a decision. We need to know what their idea is, and then we can make a decision. You know, but I mean, I think the first point what Councillor Hogg was doing, saying is like a mini projector for the room. We need to look at that properly at the moment, and then I think it is a two-stage one, as you said. For now, on what we want to be doing in the far future.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've got. Yeah, I think we know where we're at.
I think what I just say from the work, because I've got a copy here of the tender of the or the spec for the work that the Civic are currently planning to do, subject to securing enough funding, in part potentially coming back to us for some. Just about IT, it just says to extend any IT cabling as necessary. So it's not talking about putting in new, I don't know, fibre connections or putting in new complicated things. It's purely just extending what's there already. But I do think, and I'm happy to contact Judith, and obviously Kath will be speaking to her through the Civic Hall committee, but I'm happy to take an action out of this to just say, you know, have you got any specific plans we should be aware of, because we're wanting to put in some, I mean, ultimately what we suggested is portable stuff anyway, so
yeah.
problematic, I don't think.
Okay.
There isn't another cash Civic Hall Trust meeting for another 3 weeks, just over 3 weeks.
And I think, to be honest, what we're talking about with that bronze standard stuff is all stuff that you would lift up, lock away in the office, bring out for the meeting, unless we put some speakers which we could hook up high. And I think, I mean, we always have this slight tension, don't we, that the Civic Hall Trust say, well, what do you want to do in your room? And we say, well, what will you let us do in the room? And it's like, well, actually, we're the ones who pay for use of that room. So to some extent, we should say what we are aspiring to have in it, and then say, have you got any comments about how that fits with what you're planning?
Yeah.
I think as long as we're not proposing wiring all over the floor and lots of holes in the walls, which I don't think we are at this stage. I don't see why it would be a problem.
That makes sense.
Connection's important.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if Rachel just speaks to them informally about their plans and ambitions, really. Yeah. Okay. So we're on to the last agenda item, which is just the budget. Which has sent out an updated cost centre report. It's looking fairly healthy at the moment. I mean, in theory, it looks like there could easily be enough slack in this budget to pay for some bits of equipment if we're able to buy the budget for that purpose. But Rich, do you want to just talk us quickly through the budget and what your predictions are?
Well, I mean, obviously, I mean, it's a bit awkward, really, that because I never get the bank statements until the middle of the month. We're always kind of we're always kind of a month behind. So it probably doesn't reflect on what the money that we know is going to be going out in the next month or so for notice boards and whatever, you know, because there's going to be obviously probably £1,000 worth of notice boards or up to that kind of point over the next few weeks. So, and I'm going to take that from the publications budget. But you know, in general, obviously we're doing very well. Unfortunately, we can't carry it over to next year. So you know, if we can spend it within this financial year, that would be, you know, that would be most financially astute if we can do that.
Yeah. Well, I can't think of anything out other than what we've just discussed. You know, if there is a need for a few £100 for a webcam and a conference speaker, I can't think. I mean, that was why we came up with the high-vis jackets and the signage and the other things, wasn't it? And we don't want to fritter money. There's no. Well, I wouldn't support us frittering money away because it's there in the budget. I used to work in council departments that did that, and I've never been a big fan of it. I mean, so
it obviously goes into reserves. It doesn't vanish.
Yeah,
It's still the council's money, so it's not as if it vanishes.
Absolutely. So I don't think there's. Rachel,
Doug, I've just had a thought, just looking at the timetable. There is an F&M. Well, I guess if we find out that the amount of money that we need to, let's say, purchase a webcam and 3 speakers and a projector is within our budget, we just need to understand how much we have left. Then I suppose I can see the argument for having an extraordinary meeting to allow us to just say, well, actually, we've gone ahead and done it because it's within the budget that we have, rather than losing it and then having to have the great debate. I know this slightly reopens what we were just talking about, but if it's, you know, I mean, webcams are what? I bought one for about 30 quid or 35 quid or something.
yeah,
Fine, we'll be fine. You know, the speaker, I don't know how much speakers are, but you know, it wouldn't take as long to work it out as to, but whether there'd be enough left in the budget, I don't know. I mean, what's your sense, Richard? We've got these obviously commitments of the signs and notice boards, which was that about another £1,000, something like that?
Probably, under 1,000. I thought, yeah.
Then obviously we've got another publication, haven't we, this financial year? Which is another, what, £300? So let's say we've got another £1,500 that we're going to have spent. Then that will leave us with what will that leave us with? About £1,000?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, like Doug said, I don't want to spend money for the sake of spending money, but actually, if we could achieve what we think would be useful, then why not see if we can do that in this financial year within the budget we have, which would obviously necessitate us having a extraordinary meeting if we were so to do.
That makes sense.
so we just need to get that extraordinary meeting in before the annual council meeting,
Well,
or before the next meeting.
We probably only need about an half-hour meeting at the top, so we could do it before another meeting. Because all it is the working group coming back to the full pubs and common group with our proposal. Then it's like a quick discussion about it, vote on it, then that's it. So we could do it for any meeting with half an hour, even if it's the next full council. We could just meet half an hour before the full council.
Yeah. I mean, we have still got that 1,000 in special projects. I mean, it's a very vague, broad term that budget. So you know, there's no definition of what you can do with that, really. So if you can do that for that, then it's there for this committee to spend without needing to go to council, really.
Because Rich, you clerk the climate emergency meeting, don't you?
We do, yeah.
I just wonder, there's a climate emergency on the 15th of March. I just wonder if we had a literally 15 minutes pubs and comms meeting before that.
Why not?
6:30.
Why not?
One item agenda. Whether we can pencil that in, but if we find that the costs are more than we expected, or then we just don't, you know, we don't have it. I don't know. That's a thought, because presumably then any payments would need to be authorised by the council, wouldn't they? Within the financial year, or would it not matter if the payments?
No, they could go over into it could go over into next year, as long as we agree. As long as we agree the expenditure this year, it would still be referred back to this current year. Even if we do actually spend the cash next year, it'll all be factored into this year's final accounts. So,
Right. Okay. Well, that seems to make sense. So basically, we're saying we'd commit to getting some costings ready for an emergency pubs and comms to approve on the 15th, and then it would go forward to finance.
Would you? Is that all right, Rich? Or is that? I don't want to be unreasonable about squeezing that in.
no, that's absolutely fine. Does it even need to go to F&M? I can authorise a spend of 1,000. You've got 1,000 in the special projects budget anyway.
I can answer that one for you. No, if we've been detailed to look at this problem and we've got it with our budget to solve the solution, we do not have to take it to any other committee as such. If we've got the budget to sort the solution out, we're okay. We can do that.
Well, should we aim then to have an extraordinary meeting on that 15th? Are you happy for that to butt up to the climate emergency one, Rich?
Yeah, no, it doesn't bother me. No, 15 minutes is not going to kill anybody, is it? So.
And then, but we could perhaps a call needs to be made the week before, or before you start having to put together the agenda for that. So maybe 10 days before, just to confirm that we've actually got the information to hold that meeting. So we don't want to hold the meeting and then find out that, oh, we've still not got costs of stuff, or BT have said, well, we couldn't look at improving the broadband because it'll, they need an engineer to come out, or something that means that there's no point in having the meeting. We don't want to be in that scenario, really.
Yeah.
Well, can we pencil the 22nd as a reserve date, just in case we need an extra week? Because that's the full council meeting.
I mean, before full council is a bit dodgier because those are very long and often.
No, I mean, as a reserve date, if we just need the extra week to get the information together, just in case we just need waiting for an answer on the 15th, but we'll have it by the 22nd. If we have just before the full council as a reserve date, and then more than anything.
I think we should go for the 15th. I don't think we should clutter up the risk of full council, just because people dial in early for full council, and it's
Okay, fair enough.
Joy of full council recently, Jason, but
I know we're drifting about now with dates, but is the 22nd a full council meeting? Because I've got that down as a community assets meeting. I know there was some proposed meeting dates which were then changed because there was some errors later on in the year, but then I'm just checking that these dates that we're working to are all, I'm looking at the website now.
22nd is full council because we've got the annual parish meeting, according to the thing, at 7, and then the council meeting's at 8.
Right, okay.
Okay, I'm happy with the 15th. I was just about the 22nd, that's all.
Okay then, well I think we've got a decision, and we've discussed the budget, and it looks like there's no spend on the special budgets, and we think there's going to be some slippage anyway on the communications budget, so we can provisionally be looking to use the special projects budget, and between us we'll get some quotes. I'm happy to look into quotes for IT kit anyway.
Okay, cool.
And if you think we're talking about some sort of conference mic and a webcam, possibly using the kind offer of a screen, or else looking at a cheap projector perhaps. Yeah,
that sounds good. Yeah.
We all done? Is everybody any other business? No, thanks for that. We did take 2 hours, didn't we? All right.
Thanks, guys.
See you all. Bye now.
Bye. Sorry for being so late, everybody.
I'll call you tomorrow if that's okay about the bank thing. Yeah.
Tomorrow, Rachel.
Yeah, can I call you tomorrow? Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, see you all.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Great. Thanks for coming.